Yeah. I want royalties if it goes into syndication.
Okay, if it goes viral,
Okay.
you are the man.
Yeah.
Okay, well, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. You've got about 8 people on Zoom and our audience here, so
Okay, and let me know if someone,
if anyone has
everyone
questions,
has questions, feel free.
can you hear him on Zoom? Can someone give me a thumbs up or let me know if you can hear? Okay,
So if you have questions, raise your hand or simply blurt. Blurting is always encouraged.
okay.
I have no problem with people yelling out anything, preferably not an obscenity, but you know, I am a lawyer, so I'm used to stuff. So thank you all for coming out, having me. My name is Adam Brown. I'm the Executive Director of Disability Services and Legal Center. Disability Services and Legal Center is your independent living center. We cover Sonoma, Napa, Mendocino, and Lake counties. And independent living centers are federally designated nonprofits that provide a wide range of services to people with disabilities. Now, that's sort of your basis is your independent living center provides several core independent living services, really mostly around sort of basic independent living skills. From that, each agency can go off in any direction they want. Ours is really more advocacy related. We're one of the few centers in the country that actually provides legal services. So hence the name Disability Services and Legal Center, because we do provide legal representation. We give out legal advice, hopefully usually correct legal advice. And we work to empower people to understand what rights they have, what services are available to them. So really the idea is that, you know, over time, they really shouldn't need us a whole lot, you know, that people, if we help someone understand, you know, what, for example, if someone's on Social Security, every 3 to 5 years, they receive a continuing disability review. You know, in some of these reviews, the person will get a letter saying, congratulations, you're no longer disabled. We're not going to pay you anymore. You know, and that's it. It doesn't say, you know, it'll say in small print, you have the right to appeal, but it doesn't give you any explanation as to what that involves or what to do. And it doesn't direct you anywhere to get that information. So, you know, the idea is, you know, once we walk you through that process and you've gone through it, you're going to be pretty confident that the next time this comes around, because again, it's regardless of the type of disability, it's every 3 to 5 years. You know, you're not going to need to, you're probably not even going to need to contact us, because you're going to say, oh, we went through this before. All I have to do is provide this. It's not, it looks like a big deal, but it's really not a big deal as long as we do this. Okay. So it's, you know, empowerment is kind of I know that was kind of a 1990s word, but I'm trying to bring it back, because that's really, it best describes what we do in our office. So I, you know, in terms of our center, we handle a lot of issues. I mean, essentially what we tell the community is, if it's disability related, just ask us. You know, we'll either know the answer or we'll make one up. But either way, it's going to sound really official. And if it's something we don't provide, we're going to know who does. I mean, make it our business to know, you know, the area, you know, disability programs and services. Our concentrations are mostly public benefits is probably the area where we get the most people coming in, people with Social Security questions, whether that's initial applications, continuing disability reviews, overpayments, You know, how many times have you dealt with this? You've heard this situation. You know, a person gets a letter, this is the Social Security Administration. We want to let you know that you owe us $60,000. Again, and I mentioned the continuing disability reviews, everything else. So we get a lot of those situations, a lot of Medicare questions. We're currently working on an issue where a person is receiving Medicare penalties. They're terminally ill, and they chose to, or out of necessity, they cashed out their IRAs, and Medicare turned around and penalized them. Medicare has exceptions built in for life-altering situations, but terminal illness is not considered a life-threatening condition under Medicare. So some of our issues are sort of bigger, what will end up being legislative issues. But we deal with a lot of one-on-one issues. And, there's not, for a lot of things, Google does an excellent job. You type in your question, Google can pull up, videos, questions, but with the internet, there's a lot of good and there's a lot of really bad information out there. We're here, and you should use us. And again, if it's an issue that we're not the experts on, we'll be able to get to who is. In addition to advocacy, we help people with housing issues. We deal with a lot of fair housing issues, reasonable accommodations. In California, if you're a tenant, you have the right, if you're a tenant with a disability, you have the right to reasonable accommodations, whether that's having a service animal or emotional support animal, whether that's having a caregiver live with you, whether that's we had just today we had someone who was denied a apartment unit because their income source is Social Security, and they don't meet the minimum income. Well, that's a fair housing issue, and under fair housing, they can't discriminate against you because of your source of income. So, these are issues that often come up, and come up often when, whether it's either you or if it's a child and you're going into rentals, dealing with discrimination issues and so forth. Beyond housing, we deal with assistive technology. So helping people with ramps, lift systems, you have a mobile home, there's an injury or an exacerbation of the disability, and you can no longer ascend stairs. That's a situation where you're going to need a porch lift to lift you up to the door. So we have that program when we have a number of different funders for those programs. We have the transitions and diversion programs. These are programs to basically get people out of institutions. It is in no one's best interest to be living in an institution, in the not just our agency's view, but just from a public standpoint. It costs much more to have someone live in a nursing facility or an institution than to have them simply live in their home with supports. And that's something that we work on, both diversion, which is preventing someone from going into a nursing facility, as well as a transition, which is moving someone out of a nursing facility or institution into their own, onto their own. And for youth, and I know you guys this is geared for 18 and older, the presentation, but youth for, youth under, the federal guidelines would be up through 21. And, a youth transition is moving you onto your own from your family's environment. So that is considered a youth transition is successfully moving someone out of their parents' home into their own environment, whether that be a shared living or their own individual unit. So for any parents in here, there's hope that you might get your kids out of the house. So that's right, yeah. That's right. Think about how much cleaner your home will be. We do a lot with disaster preparedness. This is something that, you know, we thought we had a pretty good grip on this, and we, you know, 2000, I think we started working with the county in 2015, 2016. And the big focus was, what are we going to do when the big flood hits? And we had all this stuff prepared for helping people with a flood. There wasn't even mention of wildfire or anything. And then so we scrapped all that. We came back with a more diversified plan for all natural disasters. And we have a program with the California Office of Emergency Services. Their logo is on here too, but it's the lesser logo. So just concentrate on this one. And this is basically, I have a younger staff member who I think watches a lot of survival programs, but he has put together the ultimate survival bag. And we have first aid kits, multi-tools, survival blankets, water bottles, ponchos. And this is available to anyone with a disability. You come into our office, you go through a disaster training, and you leave with everything you'll need to survive the apocalypse. So it's a, you know, and part of it is also working with people on their own plan, because we know, particularly for individuals with mobility issues, you know, you need to have a plan for what you're going to do. If there's an emergency, if there's another fire, if there's a flood, earthquake, you know, it's not enough to simply rely on, you know, your neighbor, you know, coming by, or think that, you know, the program is going to be able to send someone out. So you really have to have stuff. You really should have a go bag. You should have, you know, stuff written out. You know, what any medications that you have or need, things like that. All your contacts, your ultimate bag, and any equipment that you're going to need as well. So you don't have to have everything just right by the door, but you should know at least where it is, where someone can quickly grab it. And if it is a situation where you're going to need, you know, assistance getting out, that there's more than one person that knows this, that can step in if needed. We had one of our clients was when the 2017 fire came through. He's a quadriplegic, and his caregiver had already come in, put him to bed, and he was like, there wasn't anyone sort of in place to sort of quickly get him out. And that was a situation where actually the fire department came in and then kicked down the door and was able to get him out. But it's sort of that, having that planning, and that's what our staff will would work with you on. Also, if you require electricity for your disability, that could be anything from a CPAP machine to a hospital bed to electricity to keep medications that need to be kept cold, you know, anything of that nature. We have a grant with PG&E that provides electric generators to people. So the electric generators they're like the size of a small refrigerator, you know, like the dorm ones, you know, maybe this high, this wide. It will power whatever device you have. It'll power for example, a CPAP, it'll run for 3 or 4 days. So if you were in this, it's really meant for those folks that, you know, really need power, and are going to need to, you know, are really going to be stuck without a power supply. Motorized wheelchair would be another example where, you know, it'll charge any number of devices.
There's a question on here. How does your organization differ in terms of legal services and expertise from California state area developmental disability boards and organizations like Disability Rights California?
Well, Disability Rights California is the protection and advocacy organization for the state. Well, one, they receive, you know, infinitely more federal funding as the designated P&A, and they're much larger. P&A has offices throughout the state. They're DRC now. Disability Rights California has offices throughout the state. Also, Disability Rights California concentrates more on larger cases. They do not, in my experience, they're not as involved in sort of individual services. So if there were a class action, DRC would be a great great entity to turn to. I think certainly legislative issues, sort of larger issues. And then within DRC, they have specialized programs. So like, for example, is everyone familiar with North Bay Regional Center? Yeah. All right. We'll accept the nod as a yes. Okay. All right. I don't know, you know, the teachers might not accept that though. You know, like, no.
It's better. Your voice.
Right. So, you know, let's say, I'm not going to pick on North Bay Regional Center, but not every client of North Bay Regional Center is always happy with the services that are provided. Okay, could be an eligibility issue, could be a service issue. Where do you turn to? Well, for example, Disability Rights California has they're funded to provide services directly. Each regional center throughout the state has a designated office through Disability Rights California called the Office of Clients' Rights Advocacy. So, and this is available to any North Bay Regional Center client on any legal issue. So it could be, it doesn't actually have to be an issue against North Bay Regional Center. It could be an issue outside of it. But their expertise is really on North Bay Lanterman Act issues or North Bay Regional Center concerns. Okay. What else do? We do a lot. Let's see. With regards to benefits, we not only help people on the advocacy end, but also people get, you know, figure out what they may be entitled to, what they may qualify for. A lot of people come in, you know, we just don't know what's out there, what's available. You know, that takes some discussion as to what, you know, and we'll work with the people and help them if they need help with applications. That's something that we would do. Also, we help with the complicated stuff. Okay. If you are receiving public benefits and you start working, there are a whole range of concerns. And, you know, there are work incentive programs that are designed to encourage people with disabilities to be working and really to sort of transition from being on benefit programs like Social Security into transitioning to work as their main source of income. The only problem is they're really complicated. And so complicated and can be so punitive when people don't do exactly what they're supposed to be doing, that it turns a lot of people away from working. And we know that people tend to be, you know, far better off. You know, work in any capacity tends to be a better experience than no work. And we're one of the few entities out there that has staff that are actually experienced with the work incentives programs, so that you're not going to have as much difficulty. So you're not going to ask. Are there particular areas that people have questions about? I can talk about disability laws. I can talk about other programs within our agency. We also act as an umbrella for several local programs. The Mayor's Committee on the Employment of People with Disabilities works under our umbrella. If you like wheelchair basketball, you should be heading in our direction, because we have the adult group, which is the North Bay Blazers. We also have the Hawks, who didn't take my suggestion. I thought they should have been Hell on Wheels, but they didn't go with that. So they went with the Hawks instead. But that's our youth wheelchair basketball team. We have the post polio support group. We have a spinal cord injury support group. So a number of smaller programs operate under our umbrella, and it's something that we're able to do under our nonprofit status. Is we are able to sort of take in smaller programs and help get them going, and then eventually those programs will, you know, transition over to their own programs.
Someone asked, do you also advocate for IHSS support?
We do IHSS questions all the time.
Okay.
We'll even occasionally do IHSS hearings. IHSS hearings aren't as common. For a while, I think a long time ago, there was a time where we were doing a lot. There was a lot more. They were a little more contentious. I think we have better contacts with the IHSS manager now, and are able to resolve a lot of issues. But IHSS can be a pitfall, and there's also a lot of misinformation out there about you know, what you need to do for IHSS. Also, there are a lot of organizations that charge people enormous amounts of money to do services that are totally free and provided by people with, you know, real expertise in the area. So
What's the difference, Adam, between IHSS and ILSS? And are there funding differences?
Yes, well, IHSS, in-home support services is a program through the county of Sonoma or here through the county. And it is through the Adult and Aging Division, who we actually partner with. This can actually be, you get our first swag for this. So, do people still view Burger King?
Yes.
Okay, all right, well then we'll hand them out. Have a bag.
Wants one for his refrigerator.
Sorry, people online, you're missing out on.
You're missing out on lots of swag here. Yeah. So this is a program that we actually started 2 years ago with the county. Oh, yeah, all right, we got to.
Thank you.
So,
We have an extra one.
of course. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't pick these out. You know, we have better swag. But the county picked those out. So this is a program we actually started 2 years ago with the county of Sonoma, where we jointly formed it's the Aging and Disability Resource Hub. So an ADRH for short, but Aging and Disability Resource Hub. So has anyone heard the term like one stop or no wrong door? Okay, you have heard it. Okay.
I've been paying attention.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. See, I thought everyone on the board was, I thought everyone was sleeping during the board meetings, but yeah, okay. So this is, so the idea is, you know, and this is true for all sorts of service areas, but it seems to be particularly true in the disability community, is that people get lost. They get lost in the cracks. Someone calls agency A. They say, oh, well, you know, that's not what we do. You should call agency B. Person calls agency B. Well, you know, we used to do that, but now I think it's agency C does that. You know, they might call agency C, but oftentimes the person just throws up their hands and says, no, this isn't worth going around in circles on this, and people get dropped. And you know, the first two agencies that answered the call, they don't know that the person, they don't know whether the person actually follows up on that information or whether they actually got served. So the idea is to create a system where whatever agency the person contacts, there's going to be follow through. So if they contact us about an issue with IHSS, let's say the person calls and they're like, you know, I really need to, you know, my IHSS worker is abusive. I really want to get rid of them, but I don't really know, you know, how to do this. You know, we would probably turn that over to, since our partner is Adult and Aging, we would probably have IHSS follow up with that directly. But we're not going to say to the person, you need to call IHSS. We're going to take down their information. We enter it into our common database. Our ADRH individual calls the IHSS manager directly, and there's the follow-up, and it's gone through. So, and same thing, if someone calls them saying, you know what, we need help with we need help with a Medicare issue. And they're like, you know, that's not really us. You know, they're gonna contact us, say, okay, we need one of your benefits people, and they're gonna follow up on it. So it's really, the no wrong door is a way that no one gets dropped. And it also opens us up to more services, because, you know, I mean, we really do, you know, even though, you know, we're the best disability organization, you know, there are other ones, you know, and we're not always aware of everything that they do. And the more organizations that we bring into the fold, the more expertise there is to say, oh, well, actually, this is how you do it. And our staff learn from it, because you know, they're getting the information directly. But that's a big issue. You know, I think a lot of people fall victim to thinking that, you know, that they need an advocate to apply for services to begin with. It's simply, there's simply no truth to that at all. And certainly and just understanding how the hours are built, you know, how the calculation is made as to, you know, what sort of things you can receive hours for, and what sort of things you can't. But again, like most public benefits programs, there's not a ton of information out there. And if you look online, some of it's good, some of it's bad.
Okay, we've got some more, working more and, that is a question I had, working more and still getting public benefit. I've heard that the ABLE Act can help people with disabilities be able to work more and still get public benefits. This is not available in our county. What do you know about this protection?
ABLE is a state-by-state program, and California is very much an ABLE state. So ABLE or ABLE it is not a work-related program. It is a program where you can set aside money, and you can actually save money without having to put it in a special needs trust or spend down in order to keep your benefits. So, for example, with supplemental security income or SSI, there's a $2,000 limit on you can't have more than $2,000 in liquid assets. Essentially, you know, they're looking at your bank account, but you know, you couldn't have $2,000 in Bitcoin either. But you can't have more than $2,000 in liquid assets. What the ABLE does is ABLE is set up just like any, you know, essentially like a standard investment account. And there's different. You have a choice of different types of accounts that you can do. It's very simple, and you can put away up to $15,000 a year into that account. And this, you can either do it yourself. You could take work income and put it in the ABLE, or, you know, you can have family, you can have friends, you know, anyone can put money into the account. Up to $15,000 a year, up to $100,000 total in the account. So yeah, so any of you younger folks, you know, what you have to do is encourage your friends and family to put $15,000 in your account every year. And then when it gets up to 100,000, you just spend it down, and then you just have them start up again. Okay, and it won't affect your SSI at all. It won't affect SSI, it won't affect Medi-Cal, it won't affect IHSS. All of those programs are exempt under it. So ABLE, and ABLE is throughout the country. So, but every state has different guidelines.
We need to pick that.
It's still taxable income, yeah. In terms of only with regards to the interest on it. But again, depending on the type of account you put it in, there may not be interest. It may be, but yeah, there'd be some sort of, whether it be an interest or dividend,
So this is the account for the parent, the account that can be.
It's for the, no, it's for the individual with a disability. It was, you had to have, your disability had to have started before age 26. That in California, that was just raised to 46. So for most individuals with disabilities, they are covered by ABLE. So it's a great program because, I mean, a special needs trust will also protect assets, but a special needs trust is a big deal. For one thing, it's very expensive, and it's complicated. You know, so I mean, you have to pay not only to set it up, but it requires maintenance. You have to have a trustee. You also have no control. Your trustee has to maintain the special needs trust. You know, so if it's something where you're gonna leave let's say you want to leave your house to your child who has a developmental disability, well, then a special needs trust would make sense. Because obviously it's anywhere in Sonoma County is certainly your house is going to be worth more than $15,000. So if it's something big, a special needs trust is still a great option. But if it's something where you simply like something like work income, or just you have, you have a lot of relatives who send you money from time to time, ABLE is a great option.
Someone asked, and Celeste, I see your question, but a minute, this one relates to this. Aaron asked, does it affect your SSI the month you put the 15 into the ABLE account? $15,000.
You can put up to 15.
And does it affect the SSI that month?
Not if it's paid directly into ABLE, then no.
Okay.
No.
And how do you set up an ABLE account?
You would go through in California, you go through CalAble. CalAble has a great website. It's calable.gov, and they have videos, they have multiple languages, they have it in pretty much every format. And if you're not clear just from that, they have staff that will walk you through everything you need to know. And there's different options to choose from. Do you want to treat it more like, do you want to like invest it, treat it more like a mutual fund, or do you want to treat it more like a savings account? Do you want to, and there's different options.
Maria said she hasn't been able to find a financial institution in Sonoma County for the ABLE account.
That shouldn't be. I haven't experienced that with CalAble. So
Maria, if you want to unmute and explain a little bit more, that might be helpful. If you can also understand, like at home. I know. Okay. Carolyn has her hand raised. Do you want to, not sure how to hear. I can probably unmute you. I can ask you to unmute. Did that work?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, unfortunately I have a cold, so I couldn't come tonight in person. To the person who wants to know how to set it up in Sonoma County, you do what the speaker said, you set it up online, but you add your bank accounts, any bank account. Once you set it up online, and you can transfer the money from your Sonoma County bank account to the CalAble, and you can also transfer back to the CalAble. You could also load a debit card, a prepaid debit card from the CalAble, and then you hand that over to your family member, and they can go buy whatever they want. This is remarkable. The other thing I wanted to say is you can transfer up to $18,000 from a special needs trust a year. So if someone's created a trust, and if you've ever had to do with Social Security with a trust, you will learn that you do not want to have that burden if you spend from that trust. So you can transfer from the trust to the CalAble, and then you can transfer to your debit card or your bank account. That's it. 4 different ways to use it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow, that was great. I didn't plant her either. Yeah, that was-
Maria,
yeah.
does that answer your question? Okay, if not, go ahead and just write some more in the chat box. We had another question about what kind of support has your group been involved with AAC, specifically speech generating devices, initial funding and ongoing support?
So speech generating, like in terms of software
I
or,
would assume like an iPad, like a speech generating device.
I would say our organization is not, I mean, what we do is, the closest thing we do is, as part of our assistive technology program, we're part of the AT Hub, which is a statewide program to connect people with, so if someone has a assistive technology question about a product or is there something out, it goes to we contract with an organization in Sacramento that should have the information. They also have a lending library for different devices as well. And then every year, not the last 2 years, but every year before that, we hold a disability assistive technology trade show at the Sonoma County Fairgrounds called the Tech Expo. And we have as many assistive technology vendors as we can possibly have, as well as service providers there, to basically not only show off their goods, but also, but hopefully demonstrate their goods. Everything from, it can be a, ramp fans to service dogs. Yes, your assistive technology, even when you're sleeping, assistive technology, to devices to help with reading, with voice, interpreter services, also training there are a number of job training programs that will be there. So we have our date this year is May 19th, which is a Friday, and this will be at the fairgrounds. And I will, as soon as it's a little early, so as soon as we have our materials, I will forward them on to this group, and then you guys can send them out.
Great.
Yeah. So. Any legal questions? Yeah, they're so easy.
We have a question. My kid's still young, but and we're planning to retire. And by the time that he's gonna be retired, my husband, by the time my son is gonna get kids, so we will be the ideal for Social Security and retiring.
Right. So at the time you retire, Social Security is going to ask you several questions when you go into retire. They're going to ask you, are you married? Or have you been married to someone for more than 10 years? Because they're eligible under your account. And also, do you have any children with disabilities, especially adult children? If your child, if you establish that your child, that their disability began before age 22, they are eligible for benefits on your account as a disabled child. We've helped people like in their 50s. We had one person in their early 60s. We established children's benefits for. It was not easy, but we were able to get some really old school records and some medical records to verify, but it makes a big difference in the amount of benefits because if you're, as their benefits under your account, one, they're usually higher than SSI, but two, they're exempt from any of the asset issues because they're just like your retirement, which doesn't care how much money you have in the bank. So, what's nice is if your child is on child benefits and not SSI, they don't have to deal with, you can have an ABLE account, but the need for it isn't as great.
And can you go into a little bit more detail? Because even I thought that you had to establish it before age 22, but you're saying.
You just have to establish that the disability began prior to age 22, but you don't have to apply for it. I mean, your child could be in their 30s. And it doesn't, as long as you're able to meet your burden in terms of establishing, but for a lot of conditions, it's just, these are conditions since birth. That are very easy to establish. So the benefits under that program are significantly better than under SSI.
So in my case, it would be better if he wait until he's 22 and apply for under his as a. Well,
whenever they don't have to wait. But they'll be switched over.
Oh,
Yeah,
So they could be on SSI now. And then when you retire, just make sure that you mention that you have, they should be asking you whether you have any minor children, because your minor children are paid out of your account regardless. Disability isn't a factor. But any older children that have disabilities are treated the same as a minor child would be treated and receive payment on your account. And that's indefinite. The only thing that will knock you off that would be marriage. So which is not something that is widely known.
Isn't there an income limit too for the kid?
It's the same as if you were on Social Security disability. So if you earn over the amount on Social Security, you're treated as if, either you won't be eligible in that month. If you do it for a year straight, you would essentially knock yourself off benefit. But anytime you're working and are on Social Security, you should definitely, you don't have to come to our office, but you should check it out with someone because income, if it's not reported properly, can be problematic in terms of your benefits.
Someone asked, can the beneficiary ask SSA if their father has retired?
Yes. Yeah. All they need is the father's Social Security number. This is true, and actually spouses, if you were married for more than 10 years, it doesn't matter if that was 30 years ago, you're eligible under that individual's account. So yeah.
Can you explain the difference between SSI and SFBI?
Okay. How much time do we have? That's a big one. So SSI, Supplemental Security Income, is a needs-based program. Okay. it's operated by Social Security, but it is not, when we talk about Social Security and the Social Security Trust Fund, it has nothing to do with that. It is a separate program that just happens to be operated by Social Security. Social Security disability is part of the Social Security retirement program and is funded out of those dollars. Okay, so it's based, so SSI is for those people who are either, if they're under 65, that they have either they're 65 and older, or they're under 65 and have a disability that prevents them from working. And again, when it's not that you have a disability, it's that your disability prevents you from working. Because just because, Social Security will acknowledge most disabilities, but the reason that they deny people is because they're arguing that they're saying, well, yes, we acknowledge you have a disability, but we don't think that precludes you from all employment.
Because you can work and be on SSI, right?
You can work on both programs, but with SSI, it's more, the penalties are much greater. So for example, on SSI, your first $85 that you earn are yours. But after that $85, unless you're on a specialized program, it's going to be a dollar for dollar deduction from your benefits. So you're not able to accrue a lot of money with SSI. Whereas SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, as long as you're earning under what's called substantial gainful activity, which is about $1,300 a month, as long as you're under that, you can, you get your entire check comes to you. So if you're on child benefits and you're receiving $1,300 a month, and then you go out and earn $1,200 a month at your job, you're able to keep that full $2,500 a month without any problems at all. Whereas on SSI, if you made that $1,200, that same $1,200 a month, you're not going to receive you wouldn't receive any SSI, or you'd receive $85 of your SSI, and that's it.
And SSDI though requires that.
But
But the
as I
eligibility-
said, there are incentive programs that do allow you to. There are things where you can either put away money into an exempt resource or do what's not there. There's plans to achieve self-support where the money can go into a special account. So there are things that can be done. All of them are complicated with regards to SSI, whereas with Social Security Disability Insurance, it's much easier.
But it's based on the parents' social security record.
Yes, if it's child benefits is always based on the parent's record. Yeah.
So if the parent is not retired, the kid can't.
The account has to be active. So if the parent decides, hey, you know what, I'm in really good health, I want to wait till I'm 70 to retire, then that account is not eligible. The child is not eligible for those benefits until that account is activated at age 70.
Right, and the parent has to receive their benefits.
And it doesn't have to be one or the other. The child can be on SSI, and then whenever the retirement comes, that's something the Social Security would look at and say, hey, we see that you're on SSI, but you're eligible for these benefits under your parent. We're either going to combine the two, or we're just going to switch you over, because the disability criteria is the same. It's establishing that your disability precludes you from working, or you meet what Social Security calls a listed impairment, which is a defined category that's usually in the more severe situation where it's an acknowledgement that if you have this condition with these symptoms, you know, we're going to automatically say that you're eligible for benefits. Yes.
So when you go to apply, if the parent is the child, do you just specifically say, I want to apply for SSDI, or do they make you
Yeah.
apply SSI first?
No.
No, you just.
And really, it should be in the same appointment. They should look at both. So what they would do is they would pull up your account and they would say, okay, we see that under your account, he would be receiving, let's say, $800 a month. Okay. And you know, that means that he would also be eligible for SSI because SSI is approximately $1,000 a month. So he would be eligible for both programs. So essentially it would be two different payments each month in the amount of $1,000, 800 being drawn based on the child benefits, and 200 being based on SSI.
And just another quick question, does it matter? Like my husband was a teacher, so he didn't get Social Security, but he had a job before that where he got a little Social Security. Does it matter that the amount that you get based on how much your Social Security?
Social Security is gonna, if both parents are retired, or if both parents are collecting Social Security is gonna look at who had the bigger account. Because it's, with Social Security, they have to provide you the larger amount. So whatever the most benefit that you would be eligible for is what you have to receive. Sometimes people will actually choose. They'll say, well, wait, if I get the lesser amount, it would be easier, but you can't do that. You have to take the larger amount. But yeah, so they'll, you know, everything is about, you know, just having those Social Security numbers so that they can run those queries. And you can run your own query too. It's actually fairly easy for government websites. Social Security is not the worst, and you can set up an account, and you know, well, I'll put it this way: I could do it, and it didn't take me more than like 5 minutes. So that says something. But so you can set up an account and you can run, and it'll give you all the different things. If I retired, if I became disabled, if I have a child, you know, if I retired today, my children would receive this much. And again, the amount for the child with a disability is the same as the amount for a minor child.
Carolyn has her hand raised.
Okay.
Go for it, Caroline. Carolyn.
Sorry, it's just really hard to be on the phone. So my family members started with SSI, and then as they worked a certain amount per quarter, they got upgraded to SSDI, so they get a split. Do you know, like, those numbers, like how much you have to earn to get enough income to get those work credits? Because I could never figure it out.
Yeah, it is I don't know the exact numbers on it. I mean, you need 40 work quarters in order to qualify for either retirement or Social Security disability insurance. Again, it's the same program. It's just Social Security disability and Social Security retirement are the same program.
But what they did, they split it now. They get
So-
two different payments. Have you heard
Right,
of-
because they're still eligible for SSI, but if you're eligible for any retirement or disability insurance, that's always paid, and then it's supplemental. If it's under the SSI rate, it's supplemented with SSI.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So, yeah, and I think a work quarter is about, I think it's about. Let's say $600 or $700. It's a weird calculation that they have, but. It's supposed to represent about 10 years of work. But depending on how much you earned, that greatly affects how you accrue your quarters. Yeah, but yeah, if you don't pay into Social Security, it doesn't matter, they're only looking at the income that was paid into Social Security, so, if you paid into a public retirement system, or if you were an independent contractor who didn't pay into Social Security, they're only looking at the income that was actually paid into Social Security. Wait, you're leaving. Do blue or sand?
I'm colorblind, but let's go with the brighter.
The brighter one, okay.
Oh, thank
We
you.
are actually we're a little bit over time, so I just want to say thank you so much for coming. This was super helpful and very informative. We have your information that we can share out to anyone on the interwebs or live in person if they have any other questions.
In-person people have, I have cards, I have brochures, I have DSLC pens. Yeah, which are also a stylus, though, even the ones where the ink doesn't work, you can do stuff. Yeah, we have the good swag. And COVID tests. We are a distribution agencies for, we do a lot of COVID education, vaccination information, and we give out COVID tests. So take some tonight, and then if you need some, just come by our office and we will happily provide you kits. There's